pretending that we're in this like fallen direct democracy anarchic hole on the verge of civil war is cope. It's just absolute. Statistically, it's
that's
cope.
Also what's real cope is when you straw man a position. I didn't say any of those things. Here's what I've said, and I'll be very clear. You're dealing right now with social erosion. Right now, you're dealing with old school boomers who are still in office. They're dying off, Connor. The old guard's dying off. There is not going to be the Nancy Pelosi's and the kind of this old guard status quo anymore. It's leaving. Instead, you're getting communists who are getting elected in New York. You're getting something different now, okay?
So people who actually believe in the Republic of the United States, for which it stands, and all the that we get taught as children, they want to perpetuate the game as we currently have it, which means keeping the First Amendment, which is freedom of conscience, freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, which is the right to keep and bear arms up to and including against a tyrannical government. It's like the Fourth, Fifth, and Eighth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, which are basically due process laws. And so they want to keep all of that. So when you're talking about, and I would say a majority of the population, you have to bear in mind a third of the population votes left, a third of the population votes right, and a third of the country doesn't vote at all. And also, even within the Christian bloc, which you keep mentioning is the largest demographic within the United States, let's be real, 30 to 35% of the country is secular or atheist, meaning that they actually don't believe in God at all. And then the 70% of the Christians, probably, let's say half of them to probably 80% of them are Creaster Christians. And what I mean by that is they don't take their faith seriously. They don't think about God. They don't think about Jesus. They don't think about heaven. They don't think about divinity. They just go on Easter and Christmas. And so what I'm saying is I have no resentments towards you trying to build a Christian political advocacy bloc. What I'm saying is that civic nationalism covers all of those people. And civic nationalism only involves the proposition that you believe in the Constitution of the United States. It's a far lower bar to entry.
Yeah. So again, these things are contradictory in their own right. First, we don't have I'll tell you. First, we don't have a republic. A republic, if you have everybody enfranchised, that's no longer a republic. Okay,
we vote for representatives.
Yeah, but we never were supposed to.
No. Hold on.
We never were supposed to. Ever.
Excuse me, we still choose representatives. The average citizen does not write legislation.
And were we supposed to ever select representatives, Connor?
Yeah.
No.
Wait.
No.
We started as a representative republic. What the f are you talking about?
Listen to me. Maybe you just have no idea. How do you think the president used to get elected? Do you think that the people got to vote on him?
No.
Exactly. No.
Right. Who was he chosen by?
The people didn't get to vote on anything except their state reps. The state reps were the ones who then sent the federal reps up. And only certain people inside of the states were able to vote at all. And most of the requirements were that they were Christians because what? You had to be of good moral standing. They didn't want people.
I don't think you contradicted me at all.
Hang on. They didn't want people who were in bad moral standing. The second
you claim. Sorry, who picked the president in the 19th century?
I didn't interrupt you. I let you go. Can I finish?
Absolutely.
So the thing is, man, is that the big problem that you have, the contradictory nature of what it is that you're stating is you start first with a presupposition, which is false, that we still have a republic. We don't. We now are moving towards direct democracy. And that's probably what we're going to see in our lifetime or something more akin to it. That's the ever expansive flow is towards that, not a republic. When you're talking about checks and balances and things like this has been out the door for a long time because now the public can vote directly on issues. And so they can be bribed. The whole system's done. The republic has already fallen. That's not even here anymore. The original statement of our founders for what a republic was, which was based on a compromise, due to the fact we had the Articles of Confederation, and that was a mess. It was a mess. We couldn't govern anything. Okay, the republic is dead. I don't know where you've been. Now it's a Zurich rush to power based on the enfranchisement of people, and now that people have realized that you can collectivize through enfranchisement to seize power, it's a matter of who gets there first. And who's willing to change the laws when they are there, Connor? And the thing is that if we don't do it, they're going to do it to us. So I don't even understand the proposition that you're giving here. You already know that that's true. You know, if Christians don't
No, I
rush
don't.
to do it, others will. And by the way, when you talk about secularists here, a lot of secularists are voting the way that Christians vote now because they're sick of social morbid degeneracy and still see Christian ethics as being superior to the alternative of progressive degeneracy. So again and again and again, telling me that we can't have a voting block when we've already had tons of successful elections based on the emergent political party of Christian nationalism or Christian populism. I don't know what the you're talking about, because we seem like we're
Okay.
kicking the shit out of everybody, Connor.
Okay. I'm going to try to be very specific because I'm not sure if you heard me before. So I'm going to say it again. I don't care that Christian conservatives with aligned values vote in their conscience. I don't give two shits
Yeah, but
about that.
what
I
about
don't,
them
and
changing
I
stuff?
actually wouldn't even care, real quick. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even care if they got a healthy chunk of what they wanted. I don't, this isn't skin off of my, what I'm saying is that the liberal, libertarian, Republican project that the United States is not dead. And I don't concede that. And I don't agree with you. We vote for representatives. There is not a single person in the state of Florida who has ever crafted a piece of legislation that has gone through either house of Congress. It
You're
hasn't
wrong.
happened except for the elected representatives.
No,
No,
that's not
you're
true.
wrong. The only thing that
I'll
we
prove it in a
vote
second.
on, the only thing that we voted on in the state of Florida
Mhm.
is we voted on state level memorandums that had to reach a certain threshold to even be considered by the state. I'm sorry, what piece of federal legislation have I been capable of voting on in the past
Well, no, no, no.
40
It's not.
years?
It's not the capability of voting, but drafting.
Well, then it's not direct
Hang on,
democracy.
hang
What the
on,
fuck are
chill
you
out.
talking about?
Private citizens are actually the ones who draft almost all federal legislation, who are part of think tanks. Those think tanks then bribe the electorate, and they pass through NGOs to the representatives things in which to vote on. So the
How do
thing
you think a
is
republic works? Do you think a representative crafts everything from scratch?
well, I mean, originally there, I do think that they had assistance, but generally this were from property owners or stakeholders. Stakeholders had a lot more to lose inside of the republic than the average citizen does. The
Isn't
average
one of the chief
citizen, hang
complaints
on,
from the
chill out,
left?
bro. Can you let me
Uh-huh.
finish the point? It
Absolutely.
is the case that if you have a perpetual underclass that you want to appeal to, even though all of the things have been taken care of for them, food, hunger, water, basic needs, they're basically a thing of the past, at least here in the United States. It's true that people have economic hard times, but the idea that we just have people starving everywhere or can't get access to clean water is insane. We've defeated most of these problems by and large. What happens though is that there's a consistent appeal to the underclass. As people get richer, the people on the bottom end of the get rich, they're appealed to by another form of the electorate to say, hey, these guys over here are really fucking you. So you need to form a block so that you can pull their resources down. Now, that was never the intention of the Republic. Now the electorate can be bribed. And because the electorate can be bribed and they can vote their own bribe money to themselves, okay, the Republic is fallen. It is crushed. There is no safeguard from this. None. And so now it's just a rush to power, bro. That's it.
I mean, I think you're just describing societies, but
That's not how
anyways, the
societies
chief.
are supposed to work. You're not supposed to be able to form a voting block to vote yourself other people's money. That's
Wait,
fucking
so
crazy.
you think in medieval Europe, you've appealed to history and you've said that my analysis is ahistorical, which I don't agree with. But you think that in medieval history, it wasn't like interest blocks forming power blocks that
No.
then advocated to the top level in order to get to the. You don't think feudal lords were who made power, like power plays in medieval
Well,
Europe?
that's a different
What the f-
proposition.
are you talking
But let
about?
me explain in the feudal system, and you can find this in both Japan and Europe because they followed a similar type of feudalism. It wasn't quite a caste system, but it was a nobility class versus a non-nobility class. The nobles had all the stake. Knights held the land, or samurais held the land. The knights of Japan. They were reporting to daimyos, who were family leaders. Okay, in this case, they were reporting to either jarls or viscounts or whatever, depending on where you were in Europe. They were the ones who were collecting the duties on the land, and that would get sent over to the king or to a prince or to some other middle manager all the way up. The truth is that only those people were allowed to have a say because they were the only people who had a stake. The peasants were living at their behest.
You did not refute that there were power blocks. All you did was describe them. That's
The
all you did.
peasants couldn't vote themselves the knight's money, dude.
Yeah, but the
Do you
peasants had to
understand the
remain
difference?
industrious in order for their lords to have the ties
But
and
it
the
was
men at
completely
arms
at
and the
the behest
knights
of the
and all that kind of
lords.
stuff in
It was
order to be
totally at the
politically
behest of the
relevant. You're
lords.
basically acting like politics was invented in the 20th
No, I'm
century.
just
That's
telling.
not
I'm trying
true.
to explain to you how power blocks
You don't need to
inside
explain
of
it. I understand a lot of
enfranchisement work.
things.
I
I'm
get it,
being polite because I like it when you
but
yap, but you didn't need
enfranchisements.
to explain those things.
Yeah, but Connor, I think I do, because when you're talking about
You don't.
enfranchising a peasant class, would medieval Europe have worked if peasants could vote themselves the fucking knight's land? No,
Probably not.
no, and this fucking republic isn't going to work because that's what they're doing. They're
Okay,
doing the
hold
same
on.
thing.
Number one. Okay, I don't agree with you descriptively at all, so I'll just go into that. So the chief complaint from the left, by the way, not necessarily me, is that the current legislative system is captured by billionaires, energy companies, military industrial complex folks, tech bros, and that they're the ones that are crafting the legislation via think tanks that then go in front of legislators to be rubber stamped and issued into Congress.
It's all
That
true.
is the technocratic elite. Those are
It's
the
all true.
people who make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. If you're saying that the American Republic has fallen because we're letting the swarthy plebeian masses make their voices known too hard, the complaint is the opposite, that we're almost being exclusively run by elites.
No, what's going on is that those think tanks and those NGOs and those technocrats and those billionaires, what they do is they craft mass propaganda campaigns in order to get carefully selected politicians who are in their pocket elected by bribing certain parts of the electorate. This is why you see the propaganda coming out of the think tanks on the left for things like DEI, for things like reparations, for things like this. These are all bribes to the electorate in order to get specific politicians to get elected, who will then pass whatever their non-governmental organization, NGO, or think tank has set up for us.
You understand that in developed countries,
Hang on,
Americans are uniquely bad at
this is
bribing the peasant
only
class, right?
no, they're really good at it, actually. That's one of the
I
big
think they're pretty
falsehoods.
bad.
That's one of the big falsehoods of the left. These last riots, for instance, that happened in California, the No King's Day was not organic at all. It was grafted by 500 to 1,000 specific NGOs, and I read a list of them. And what they did was they began paying the peasant class to show up to these things, which they often do. And they were trying to propagandize portions of the electorate against Donald Trump because he's some type of thorn against their agenda. So they were
Sorry,
saying he's a fascist, he's a
how is
this,
that
he's a
different?
that. It's
How
crazy.
is that real quick? How is that different from what you or I do?
What do you mean?
Because I wake up every single day, I go onto a live stream, I have a certain ideological set, and I get financially rewarded as an ideological set by
Sure.
my chat. And as a result, I advocate for a certain set of beliefs that I'm trying to convince a maximum amount of people to believe in.
So
So
you
how
want
are these people, because you're using scary words like
so your
NGO and
goal so your
propaganda,
goal is to use the
how are
electorate for
they
power.
different than you
Well,
or me?
first of all, I'm not I guess both of us would be non-governmental organizations, but we're not think tanks. The thing is, though, is that what
I
all
mean,
you're
I'm a
doing,
tank and I like to
yeah,
think,
all
but
you're
yeah,
doing
sure.
is affirming my point. The idea here is that we're trying to mobilize the electorate to put them in position, or put people in positions of power who reflect our belief structures on the country, knowing that if we don't get our people there, somebody else is going to get their people there.
Okay, but hold on, real quick, right here. I think this is the argument right here. Okay,
Okay.
Donald Trump did specific things that are contrary to the Republic of the United States. And what I would cite specifically
What?
is the fake elector scheme by John Eastman, where he tried to say that the vice president's role is
Yeah.
not ceremonial, and that
Mhm.
because there's alleged fraud in XYZ ABC states, then Meg Pence can declare that because of this fraud, these ballots are cast out. Therefore, Donald Trump is the president.
So
Then they had like another backup plan. Then they had a backup plan to the
so what?
backup plan. Then they had the protest.
I'm just going to
Okay.
grant all of it's true. So what?
Okay. All of that is people are getting called seditious for saying that the military should follow legal orders and not unlawful orders right now. All of that was illegal as and treasonous as.
I'm going to tell you a truth of the world. The
Yeah.
only thing that's illegal is what the guy with the gun tells you is illegal. And
Yeah, so you
ultimately,
don't believe in a constitution
I'm
anymore. This
just,
is
well,
exactly what I'm
there is,
advocating against.
well, okay, but hang on, calm down, right? The truth is that even if I granted all of this, if it is the case that power is seized in this nation by Marxists at the barrel of the gun, or it's seized by somebody else at the barrel of the gun. The truth of the matter is that that's how power works. Now, do I agree
There's
that
not enough Marxists to seize the power of the
not
United
saying,
States. There's
you know
not enough
what?
Marxists in the
I'm
United
going to
States
tell
to
you,
overthrow the republic.
yeah, well, you know what? That's exactly what the fucking czar thought too, because they thought they were all nerd buckets. They thought all the Leninists were a bunch of fucking dorks and nerd buckets, and the White Russians had all the power, and they were the Omega Chads, and they never saw it coming when they got overthrown. His whole family got drug out and shot in the head. Nobody saw it coming, Connor. None
I
of them
think
saw
they
it
all
coming.
saw it coming for a prolonged period. I don't think that's
No,
accurate to
you're
late
wrong.
Russian
You need to look
history.
at what happened with the White Russians and the White Russian Party. They thought they were dorks. They thought they were nerds. They didn't expect it. They didn't expect it at all. And then suddenly
Yeah,
there
but
was a
at the same
clique
time, you're
through.
talking about like
Chill
a
out, Connor.
feudal
Let me
system
finish my
that was like
point.
200 to 300 years materially
Finish my
behind the
point.
rest of Europe.
Connor, just let me finish my point. They seized power from the rightful power that was there, the czar. They did it. A bunch of dorks. Okay. A bunch of Weasley,
So
a bunch
hold
of
on. So
Weasley
if you need to
dorks.
seize power first, then why isn't January 6th super fucking based? Is it
What,
not based because
what do
they
you
failed?
mean? What does that have to do with anything that we're talking about?
Because you're.
I'm talking about the
What you've been
mechanisms
saying
of
for the past 2
power
or
in a
3 minutes.
philosophical way, not the event itself. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm talking about
Yes.
power.
Okay, hold on. Absolutely. Whether or not we continue to propagate the peaceful transfer of power in a republic absolutely matters.
We don't
it
have a
sounds like what you're
republic,
saying.
and there's no peaceful transfers of power anymore. I don't know what you're talking about. What peaceful transfers of power are you talking about? Donald Trump gets elected, and they go to California and they start destroying vehicles and burning the town down and starting little small riots everywhere. They go to the ICE facilities of the federal agents and do everything they can do. This is not a peaceful transfer of power. What are you talking about?
Really, really, really don't like internet politics, by the way. If you look at any time throughout history, you could pick any time in the 19th century, this is more peaceful than the 19th century. You could pick any time in the 20th century, the current era is more peaceful than that time. You could look at a whole host of political intrigues that are infinitely more fucked up, except for Donald Trump.
So then can you tell me why it is that Destiny's running around saying that there has been more protest under this president than any other president in U.S. history?
Protests aren't violence. What the fuck
yeah,
are you
they
talking
do lead
about?
to. These ones have nonstop. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that the
BLM,
homicide rate has been cut in half since 1992, and half of you aren't even aware of that.
Do you remember what happened with the BLM riots? Do you remember what happened with the unrest going on?
Of damage. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Rittenhouse smoked 3 dudes and everybody got bored. What the fuck are you talking about?
Again and again and again, when you're saying that there are now peaceful transfers of power, here's what's happening is mass polarization. The left is not ever.
The 60s and 70s were infinitely more statistically violent than this right now.
The thing is, that's really funny, Connor, is that the left right now is never going to accept a right-wing politician, and the right wing is not ever going to accept a left-wing politician. That's where we're at. We don't accept them. And so we don't accept their authority. We don't like their authority. We resist their authority. That's what's been going on for the last 20 years.
Bet $50? I could do like 50 or 20.
On what?
On whether or not the left wing broadly or the right wing broadly will accept a president of the United States from the opposite party.
They don't see his authority as being something that needs to be followed. They see it as authority which needs to be resisted. At every level, they see it as authority which needs to be resisted, Connor. They see it from, I mean, you can go to TikTok and listen to these people.
And via the courts, that's not a problem. That's the way our political system works.
It is a fucking problem. Yes, it is. Because once people decide that there's a whole voting cast of or group of people who put others in authority and their authority is not recognized, we've got a big problem and their authority is not being recognized.
Okay, 6 Democrats said the other day that if the president disobeys the law and orders them to do something unlawful, then it is their job to refuse the order. This has been labeled largely on social media as a seditious action. Have we seen the United States military rise up and seize Washington, D.C.? Have we seen a rebellion that's deposed Donald Trump? Or is
what does that have to do with what I'm saying?
Speaking, following his orders as long as they think they're approximately legal?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about erosion, right? You're talking about a specific event. The thing is that the erosion is happening because neither side concede the authority of the other side. In other words, Donald Trump's not my president is what you'll hear from a leftist a lot more than he is my president. They'll agree that he was elected. They won't agree that his authority is something that they need to actually adhere to. And the problem is that
To
this
the
is
point of
can,
illegality or to the
can you
point of
chill out?
protest?
Not just to the point of protest. These people will go in, agitate, burn things, destroy things, and then have bail funds ready for themselves and
And
have
haven't they been
powers. They
incarcerated?
have powers and mechanisms in place and they're going to expand this. This is not contracting. This guy's going to be there for many more years, and the polarization is going to continue. So what happens right now is here's what every side sees from the bird's eye view, right? It's a rush to who gets power and who gets to and change the laws to stay in power. That's what every
Okay,
side. Hang on,
but
Connor, just
this
let
is
me
like
finish,
ignorance of
bro.
what's
Let me
actually
finish,
happening, though.
bro. No, it is what's happening. You're just
No,
blind.
it's not. I'll be happy to
Okay.
describe it whenever you're
All
done.
right, go ahead, Connor. Tell me what's really happening.
Okay, Donald Trump has not been able to pass legislation. He has not, besides the big, beautiful bill, he's not been able to pass, which means that the only thing that he's done is executive orders, which means the next time that a Democrat gets back in there, the same way that he reversed DACA, the same way that he reversed Remain in Mexico, the same way that he reversed all these things, a Democrat is going to be able to reverse all those same things because they weren't passed via legislation. So no, like, and by the way, this is all perfectly legal because what he's doing is he's doing random things using the executive branch, and people think they're testing the limits of the authority that's invested in his seat, and they're challenging him in court. That's the way the system is supposed to work. If some head for $20 said, you don't understand force doctrine, I understand force doctrine more than you did. The society only works, number one, as long as we believe in it. And number two, as long as people are forced or compelled to do it. So no, I understand that completely. But pretending that we're in this like fallen direct democracy, anarchic hole on the verge of civil war is cope. It's just absolute. Statistically, it's
that's
cope.
also what's real cope is when you straw man a position. I didn't say any of those things. Here's what I've said, and I'll be very
I feel like you
clear.
painted that picture pretty vividly.
You're focusing. What we're focusing on right now is erosion, societal erosion,
Well,
and
you've
that's.
also said that we don't live in a republic anymore.
I don't think we do. Not at least the way our founders intended it. Not at all. And I think that enfranchisement destroyed a lot of that. And so the thing is that and we can pull up the original way that people were supposed to vote to notate this. But let's point this out. You're dealing right now with social erosion. And what happens with social erosion? Right now, you're dealing with old school boomers and who are still in office. They're dying off, Connor. The old guard's dying off. There is not going to be the Nancy Pelosi's and the kind of this old guard status quo anymore. It's leaving. Instead, you're getting communists who are getting elected in New York. You're getting something different now. Okay. And this different thing that you see is a maxim of polarization, that there is no more room for the center. And the reason for that is because either they get power or we get power is now how we're looking and viewing politics at the national stage. You're talking about systems and mechanics which are in place to assist against this, but they're being eroded, whether you like them or not. And if it's the case that the left can change these laws and Marxists can change laws and amend laws, if they could get an abortion amendment through tomorrow, they would. If they could get an amendment for no more guns tomorrow, they would. If they could amend the Constitution to suit them, they will do it. And so,
And they
yes,
can't.
they can. The problem
You
is
think
like
that
you're
they can eliminate the
wrong. They
Second
can.
Amendment?
Yes, they
You think they
can.
can eliminate the Second Amendment or the First Amendment?
I think it's very possible that you could have a constitutional convention in our lifetimes where you could have some of these amendments which are being viewed. Yes, I think that that's a full possibility. We've been talking about having another constitutional convention for years. It would not surprise me if the polarization got so bad that other states decided that they wanted to move towards a constitutional convention. It could happen. But this
Okay, so
aside,
let
the
me make
fun thing
this.
about this, though, is like, let's just say it doesn't. Let's just say it doesn't. Let's
Yeah.
just say that what happens instead is like social populism happens this way. Let's say that there's a bunch of leftists who get together and they're like, look, people hate this mass migration. They go ahead and elect into office tons and tons and tons of social progressives who are against mass migration, but want their economic policies passed. Okay. Let's just say that that's extremely popular with the electorate. if it becomes very popular with the electorate, yes, they probably can begin to unwind some of these amendments, which would help them with power in the future, Connor, because they've been doing it now.
I
The
want to
whole
shift it a
point
little
of
bit.
enfranchisement was to secure power. That's what it was for.